Welcome to Shallow. One podcast, two time zones, diving deep into a new topic every week. From pop culture to beauty and wellness trends, careers and ambitions, these conversations flood our WhatsApp inboxes and social media feeds. Dialing in from Sydney, Australia and London, UK, we're asking the same question. Is it really that deep?
The Shallow take: OnlyFans is rebranding exploitation as liberation. Critics argue that OnlyFans profits off women's labour, plays into the male gaze, and reinforces harmful beauty standards. While some find freedom, others question if true empowerment can exist inside a system that was never made to actually serve you. Let's dive in. Phoebe, how are you doing today? How's Sydney? How's life?
Is popping off. I'm doing great, thanks, Luce. Actually, I have a recommendation today. It's a bit of a weird one, bear with me, but those who know me know that I'm a bit of a dessert head. I love a pudding, and I've recently discovered what can only be described as heaven in a chocolate mousse form. It's Australian only, sorry to the Brits, but it's a brand called Yalla, Yalla, and they make a milk chocolate one, they make a dark chocolate one. It is so good. One of the best chocolate mousse I've ever eaten. Shout out to Yalla, because they go so hard.
Well, thanks for that recommendation that I can't have. No, honestly, I know how much
I've got something wonderful. You're gonna love it, and you can't get your hands on it. Sorry.
When I come next, I will get my hands on it. I know you're a big pudding expert. We're both tiramisu girlies. I do have one that I'm eating at the moment, actually, the Alpro dark chocolate. It's not a mousse, it's kind of almost like a soft yogurt, but it doesn't have any dairy in it. I think it's soya, but it's super delicious.
I know what you mean.
So that's my recommendation.
There you go.
If we're competing.
You got two pudding. Let's dive into this today. So we've done part one, we're on to part two. Kind of laid the foundation in part one, so if you haven't listened to that, jump back and listen to it before you go into this episode. But this episode is going to be a little bit more about the gritty, slightly more problematic side of OnlyFans and online content and the price tag it comes with. So basically, what I actually really wanted to start with today was the Kim Kardashian sex tape. Let's take it all the way back. You spoke to me about this after listening to a podcast as quite a pivotal moment in time and in culture, and almost a bit of a butterfly effect. Do we really think OnlyFans would have kind of blossomed into what it is without that moment, or do you think it's actually irrelevant?
Yeah, I think I read an article from that podcast. It was Shannon Sharp's Club Shay Shay podcast, where Ray J was on talking about the explicit sex scandal video he made with Kim Kardashian, and he kind of said there might not have been an OnlyFans and without him, because that was such a pivotal moment. I mean, in my head, was the first time celebrities were doing this kind of thing, outside of sex websites and things like that, and maybe thinking of sex workers in more of a sleazy light. It was suddenly these A-lister celebrities are doing it as well. And it kind of came to the forefront of our kind of societal view, basically. He also went on to say that would more people, he often thought would more people be kind of going to college and getting an education and being successful if it wasn't off the back of his video. And I think he was being quite reflective in that podcast because, a lot of people saw that video and it kind of, in my opinion as well, kind of jump-started this whole,
totally
sex scandal online in terms of, social media. And it's almost from then on, all these other celebrity sex tapes came out. It was a way to, claim fame. It was a way to kind of get to the top of the rankings and to get your name out there. And, what better way to do it than through sex, right?
Sex sells, baby. Well, this is it. I think the Kardashians, especially Kim Kardashian, for me, that sex tape was the thing that jump-started her career. And there's that kind of half funny, half depressing anecdote, I think, where she took it to her mum, Kris Jenner, and her mum was as her mum, I was like, oh, but as her manager, I was like, we could use this. I'm paraphrasing. I don't know the exact words. It was a lot, yeah, like the dollar signs in the eyes. So I think it clearly worked for her. And look, there's other strings that they were pulling, I'm sure, but that was a really pivotal part of creating fame, tension point in culture, and making her, I think, what she is today.
Yeah, and I think something that really stood out from his interview, in present day about the sex tape, Ray J, was he's got like young girls now as daughters, and he's kind of sitting in reflection almost, because he's thinking, I didn't think at the time about my future children, about how my actions would impact them. And he really, really believes that this whole kind of sexscape and social media sexscape is off the butterfly effect of his video with Kim. And you could say that. I mean, what massive, sex scandal, happened before that? I mean, you could probably bring in, was it Pamela Anderson had a bit of a
Tommy
back in the day,
sex tape.
We didn't have the influx of social media. We didn't have Twitter. We didn't have Instagram. We didn't have these platforms to fully almost like profit off and create businesses from the back end of that fame. And in a way, OnlyFans is a way that the sex tape is made accessible for normal people, but also for more celebrities as well, like we spoke about in the last episode. There's, it became famous through the celebrities, that were starting on it and creating and making a lot of money. Like that's where the initial kind of like influx came from. So, it's not surprising that he sits there and thinks that.
I just want to zoom in for a second on kind of something he said about more people will be going to college and getting an education and being successful if OnlyFans, this kind of influx of sex tape and sexual content, didn't exist. Do you agree with that statement?
Ooh. I think... Wow, you're putting me on the spot. No, I think that's a very loaded question. And I think it's not just black and white. Whereas on one hand, I do agree with him, because I think as we get further into this episode, I think we'll unpack a few of my opinions on the kind of OnlyFans kind of landscape. But I also think it's quite a loaded thing to say without, much kind of statistical proof. I mean, but at the same time, I do get the sentiment, and I do kind of see what he means in terms of are these corporations and are these apps and are these businesses kind of turning women's eyes off the prize of, maybe getting into male-dominated careers and doing other things onto this, sex work with a big price tag on it. And it's kind of, is it a distraction for women? Is it a distraction from the things that maybe we should be focusing on? Or, maybe we wouldn't have to earn all this money from OnlyFans if, we were paid equally, or we had equal opportunities. And I'm not saying that we don't have that in the modern day first world countries, because we do, but there is still disparity and there is still unequalness and lack of diversity. It's just a fact.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I just wanted to zoom in on that, and I totally agree with you. It's definitely a grey space. And I think also as well, like not just with sexual content, I think content in general, like you speak to a lot of kids now and they want to be YouTubers because it's a fun lifestyle. If you make it big, that's where the bag is. They're turning away from careers that we need. Like we need doctors, we need nurses. Like, yes, creating content is great fun. We're sat on mic doing it for you right now. And we love it. But yeah, it's not saving lives. And I found that quite interesting.
Yeah, it reminds me of this documentary on Netflix I watched. I can't remember exactly what it was called, but it was about these really, really famous like YouTuber children. And they were absolutely massive. It was almost like the Logan Pauls of like 10-year-olds and younger. And it was kind of creepy because the mum of the group, because they were earning a lot of money for sponsorships, so there was a lot of money in these children. And it kind of came out through this documentary that at any point she was trying to get them to have like love affairs on screen, like these children, so they would like kiss each other's cheek, and she would try and sexualize it as much as possible, because she knew that the ratings would go up, and she knew that she would get more money from it. So it's like, even from, you know, an age of like 8 years old, I mean I think the main mother and her daughter are like, they're still doing this, they're still on Instagram, they're still, you know, promoting this stuff, whereas the other children have kind of disbanded, and they were on this documentary saying how kind of almost like abusive it was. And yeah, I just think it's important to show that like this is something that is happening on social media, not just in OnlyFans, but from like in YouTube, from like young children, and it's kind of like shaping them into these kind of sexual beings, when it's like they're shaping them into these kind of like performers with this kind of like almost like a motherly pimp almost, like I don't know how to kind of articulate that, but yeah, I just found it super creepy, super weird, and it did kind of reflect to me, it was like kind of like the children's version of OnlyFans.
So gross, man. And I mean, to move
Sorry
on
for that, that was dark.
Yeah. That was quite dark. Wasn't expecting that.
That was fucking
Wasn't
dark.
on the run sheet, Lucy.
Sorry, that wasn't on the call sheet.
If you've been enjoying the episode, can you do us a really quick favour? Drop us a rating or a little review. It helps more people find us, and honestly, we're a little bit needy like that. Takes 2 seconds and means the world. Thanks, guys. Moving on to kind of exploitations and extreme behaviour. I mean, Bonnie Blue, I'm sure everyone's heard about her at this point, kind of an OnlyFans creator known for her polarising PR stunts, showing up at Freshers Week, viral stunts, rage bait at campuses, holding up signs saying, bonk me, using phrases like barely legal. And she actually appeared on, I think it was G.K. Barry's podcast called Saving Grace. And this is a quote from it, which was kind of very depressing, saying married men cheat because their wives don't provide sex, so they have the right to look elsewhere. And I'm going to be honest, I think a lot of what she says, it's performative, it's for PR. She knows she's creating tension. She knows this stuff is going to hit the news cycle, and ultimately that increases her audience and gives her more money. So I'm not saying it's right, but a fistful of salt required. And that podcast was actually deleted after backlash, shock horror. She also claimed that she slept with 1,057 men in a day, which doctors chimed in and said that was highly unrealistic and impractical. And just a final wrap-up quote is, "Your husband, your partners pay my bills and have made me a millionaire."
Honestly, I mean, when I was in Australia with you last year, I remember we were kind of walking down the street, went to get a coffee, and, you know, Bonnie Blue had just been like denied her visa to Australia because I think she was going to do the whole like sleeping with college kids on campus, but Australia version. And I remember us just being like, oh God, this is just, it's like we don't need kind of women adding fuel to this fire. Do you know what I mean? Like it's just really unnecessary. And I just believe, you know, no matter, let's say Bonnie Blue doesn't ever see these hateful comments that she gets, because she gets really disgusting, you know, online backlash. Like, you know, I think she expects that from what she puts out. I just don't believe that she is totally present in that, and she totally sees that, and I don't think she cares.
She doesn't care, yeah.
What the worry is that other people see that, other women see that, other women see those hateful comments, and they see those men, you know, messaging, calling her like a whore, and, you know, all the other words that you can call her under the sun. And I, you know, was just scrolling, I think on Facebook, and I came across this really, really awful kind of AI, you know, when everyone was doing that kind of doll AI where they'd put themselves in like a little Barbie box, and it was really cute. Well, they'd done one for her, but it was like, she was like this like hobo, like sex worker from the streets, like covered in muck. And like, you know, like, I think, yeah, she just looked like she was stricken with poverty, you know, and all the comments were just disgusting. Like, this is where she belongs, on the street. She's a dirty, horrible woman, you know, all these kind of things. And like, to me, I was looking at that thinking, this is awful, because although, you know, Bonnie Blue might not see these posts and see these like doll boxes of AI and, you know, all this kind of horrible, you know, stuff that's going on the internet about her, the people who do see it are, you know, young women, young men, people who are influenced by these comments and think it's okay to write them as well, because they're like, well, everyone else is jumping on the bandwagon. And also it's hurting the people who are on the streets and who are working as sex workers on the streets for not much money, you know, who have third parties controlling them and controlling their earnings, and they don't feel like they have a way out, or they're entangled with drugs, or they're, you know, they're at a really low point in their life. You're making fun of those people. You're not making fun of Bonnie Blue, because Bonnie Blue's on her yacht with her millions. Like, she don't give a fuck, you know?
Yeah.
But the people who do see that are the people in the industry who might be struggling and, you know, might not have any other options but to go into sex work. And I don't think, you know, Bonnie Blue really maybe thinks about that. I don't know whether she really understands the gravity of her actions. Like, I think she hides under this kind of umbrella of, I'll do whatever the fuck I want. I'm empowered. You know, fuck you. Like, this is me taking back, you know, what men have taken from us for a long time. And she kind of rebrands that into kind of a, you know, male-dominated space. But I think it's really important to kind of mention the marginalised communities and these kind of people who are struggling, and it's not all, you know, like dollar signs and, you know, Botox and fucking going on excursions here, there and everywhere. Like, these are real people, and like, they're real people's lives.
Yeah, it's a really good and interesting point, and I hadn't seen that on the internet. But yeah, you're right. Like, young women and men will be like ingesting that narrative, and I'll be honest, I don't think she even hides behind like, I'm taking this back from men. I feel like the narrative she pumps out is like, women, you're not sleeping with your man, what do you expect? And because, again, I don't know if she believes that, but that's like, you know, the rage bait of it all that she knows is going to get headlines. Moving on to the Olivia Attwood Getting Filthy Rich documentary, one of the creators she interviewed said, I have a high earning potential for a short amount of time. What next? And this was really interesting. And you kind of flagged this to me of like, are you almost gambling with your youth? Like, you're kind of betting on yourself for a certain amount of time. And how long does that earning potential go on for? Because so much of this is, like, I hate to say it, but it's looks based, isn't it?
Yeah, it's and when you see online how men and people in comment sections of, you know, normal looking women in their 40s behave, you then, you know, turn your eye to kind of this industry where, you know, people are getting augmentations and changing their way they look, or like snatching themselves. You know, they're earning all this money, they're earning 100k a week, but what are they spending that on? Larger breasts, larger bum, you know, more full lips, you know, cheek filler, all that kind of stuff. And it is kind of that, yeah, it's almost like, could it be seen as an addiction in a way? I mean, I watched Olivia Attwood's Price of Perfection, and she had an OnlyFans creator on there, and she, you know, had these really, really, like, I mean, like, stupidly large breasts, to the point where, like, she was walking funny because they were so big and they were augmented. And she went to the surgeon with her because she wanted them to be larger, and the surgeon actually, like, turned her away and said, no, like, I will not operate on you because this is a life or death situation. You know, you could die from this. And, you know, she was sat there like, I will find someone who'll do it. Like, I'll find somebody. You know, they're so addicted to the game of, you know, going onto their socials, going onto their OnlyFans and being like, look, I've got a breast enhancement again and again. And they know that that's going to bring in revenue. They know that they're going to get money from that. And yeah, it was just really sad because she just turned to Olivia and she said, I know he won't do it, but I will find someone who will, and they'll be in Turkey. You know, like, I know somebody, I know surgeons that do. And you see, I think, who was it? One of my friends was on like one of the Turkey planes, you know, back, and everyone had some sort of like plastic surgery done. Like, that's where you go to, right, for cheap surgery. And it's these OnlyFans creators, like you said, are they becoming addicted to it? Are they gambling on how much longer they've got? They're like, well, how could I extend this period of like influx of cash if I go and get, you know, my brow lifted and do I go and, you know, get some cheek filler, Botox every other month, sorry, you know, like does that add to my value, and does that prolong my career?
Yeah, it's almost like that self-investment, isn't it? Of like, if I put this much in, how much am I going to get back? And, you know, it's being seen as bankable for as long as possible. In a lot of ways, that also ties to like the Hollywood industry. Like, you know, you look at all these incredible female actresses, largely female, sometimes male, getting all this work done. And that is to stay commercially viable for as long as possible, which is just, it's so disappointing, but I understand it. But I mean, is the platform ultimately only rewarding conventionally attractive young females, and then they're ultimately spending more and more to retain that? Like, do you think the platform, if you would go on the platform as someone who was a little bit older or less conventionally attractive, do you think you'd be earning this level of money?
No. And that's harsh, and that's really harsh for me to say, but that's just my opinion. I really don't think so. I mean, I look at people like Pamela Anderson, for example. I know she doesn't have an OnlyFans account, but I think when you mentioned Hollywood, I thought, light bulb, like the way that Pamela Anderson is treated online. She is one of the most beautiful women in the world. Like, she's in her 50s now, but she's absolutely stunning. She doesn't wear that much makeup. You know, I mean, she's probably had a procedure or two, whatever. But, you know, she does look her age, and the comments, awful. You know,
really,
she gets a lot of like, she's beautiful, she's amazing, but she gets a lot of like, she's so old, she's so this, she's past it, like she used to be this, now she's this. So I don't believe that you know, they necessarily would do well, you know, unless you were a celebrity. I don't believe that you could make that traction, because I just don't believe that social media and people are open to that, and you know, and are past that. Like, I just don't think so. What about you?
I agree. I think sadly it's true, isn't it? And I think, you know, it goes back to what we're talking about in the pillow face episode and in the skinny episode. Like, you can't win. You either like invest in yourself and you make yourself bankable, but then you take it too far, or you don't, and you're tired and haggard and you're not bankable. So what do you do? And all of that is a total fuck around mentally. And I think I really kind of want to talk about the mental health side of literally the price of this content and the toll it takes. There was a male creator who did an interview with GQ. His name's CJ. He rose to fame on TikTok, became a top earner on OnlyFans, and kind of despite his success, he reports feeling really emotionally disconnected, and goes into a lot more detail in that article as well. There was another creator called Eve Jones. She said, "I told everyone being an OnlyFans star was fun and empowering. It was all a lie." She was earning $9,000 a month. She said she faced isolation, dating challenges, and addictive cycles of attention and money. She's now off the platform and advocates for things like stricter age limits. Ari, who we mentioned in that other episode, who's an incredibly successful OnlyFans creator and TikTok star, has spoken about having a stalker that really, really scared her. And, you know, she's doing incredibly well. She's just also landed an Urban Decay campaign, so a huge beauty brand has kind of snapped her up. But, you know, she speaks at length online about how this career is, yeah, the money's great, but if you don't have a supportive family, you could be disowned. If you're not starting on these platforms with a serious following and an audience, you're not gonna earn this level of money, and you're gonna potentially face challenges in your romantic life, in your personal life, in your social life. She's very candid about all of that. And obviously the payout is huge if you win big, but what if you don't?
What if you don't? Exactly. And like, I think, you know, a lot of the content creators on OnlyFans, they're not in the top earners. I think it's only like 2% of the top earners actually earn this kind of money, and the rest of them don't, you know, they earn maybe like a living wage. Like, it's not these like sunshines and rainbows that, you know, these big creators who earn like $100K a week are making it out to be. And I think when you said about the kind of addictive cycles of attention and money, it kind of brought me back to that kind of same feeling of like, it's almost like gambling. And like, if she's like advocating for, you know, stricter age limits, it's the same with like kind of going to your local like casino. It's like, because you're betting on your life, you're betting on your friendships, you're betting on your family to accept you, your friendships to accept you, for you to be able to in the future maybe decide that you don't want to do it, that you're betting on that as well, because, you know, maybe you want to do it now and you're like, I want to do this forever, but you have to take into account that maybe in a few years' time you might just want to step back and you might want to go into another career, and how has that previous career impacted how you get something in the future? And you've got to think about those things. And I think a lot of people maybe are blinded by that price tag, blinded by that money aspect, and the attention and the fame, you know, bringing back to the Kim K video, the fame that, you know, got her to where they are as a multi-billionaire family. Like, you know, people look up to the Kardashians, they watch their shows, you know, they love them, they buy into their products, you know, they're role models. And you get the normal person who are buying into all those things, the lip kits, the body shapewear, the lifestyle, the look. And then, you know, what's the next step to become this kind of social media star through selling your body, through sex work? And OnlyFans is almost a way of bringing that in a less judgmental way, in a way. Like it's got less of a taboo, you know, sticker on it.
I think also as well, many of these creators, especially women, are kind of criticized for not being role models. And I think this kind of pisses me off, because like, are these guys responsible for being role models just because they're female? Why do they need to be branded with that? And again, I'm not saying I agree with, you know, what Lily Phillips has done and what Bonnie Blue has done with the kind of the rage baity stunts, but why should they have to set a good example? Like, you know, on the sliding scale, what they're doing isn't amazing, but they're not out here like committing vicious crimes.
Yeah, and I think the other side to that is maybe like they're not, then they don't need to be, and they have their place, and their, you know, their career is their career, and they can do what they want. But because, for example, like social media is not restricted in any way, and that's not on the OnlyFans creators, that's not on them, because they're not the people, you know, making these decisions. But it's on people who, you know, who own Instagram, Meta, you know, it's on these big corporations to restrict that content for younger audiences so that they can grow up without this kind of influx of hyper-sexualized content. I mean, it's something we all deal with every day, and we all see every day. And, you know, we could talk about this till cows come home, and we do on every episode of this podcast. We do kind of discuss this trope of like social media kind of being bad for young people, but it really is. And, you know, I'm talking like the extremes, like Bonnie Blue and Lily Phillips. You know, I think they really stand out because of how viral they are, and that's the key word. Like, things go viral. These people go viral. If they just didn't go viral, and, you know, they had their corner and they were like, you know, making their content and earning their money, and it wasn't getting into the minds of the younger generation or younger people, thinking that that's maybe something that they should do instead of, like, you know, their passion for, I don't know, English literature, or I don't know, you know, instead of kind of diverting their attention, maybe there's something in that. I don't know. I think as I'm speaking, I'm kind of like working it out myself, and I'm sure like people listening are kind of like, what does she mean? Because, you know, she's saying kind of counterintuitive things, and I do agree with that, but this is the point of this conversation, is because it's not black and white.
It's
There's
a double-edged
so many
sword.
Nuances to it.
It really
a double-edged
is.
sword, and I think people kind of get cornered into thinking that they have to have this solid opinion about things, and two opinions can't exist at the same time. And I think with OnlyFans, for me, that's what it is. And as I speak about it, I understand that more. Do you know what I mean?
100%. I yeah, we are kind of working a lot of this stuff out in real time as we chew this over, and it isn't black and white. And even, you know, as I said, like, what these guys are doing isn't illegal. They're not committing vicious crimes. But then I remembered, you know, Bonnie Blue is like sleeping with barely legal teenage boys, and if you were to flip that and make her a man, then that would be like really fucking dicey. But I also agree with you on the platform side of things. You know, it is in well, it's not in their interest, it's in the audience's interest that this content is a lot more monitored. And also I don't think it's helped as well with a lot of what, you know, Lily Phillips and Bonnie Blue have done specifically. It's hit national news, if not international news. And I think that's also brought it into the minds of the general public and, you know, young women and men. But let's try and wrap this up, which is going to be hard because it's been a tough one to unpick. And I'm sure there's avenues which we also haven't gone down as well. But I think bringing it all together, is this sexual freedom? Is this sex positive, being on OnlyFans, having this platform? Or is this just another version of female objectification? Like, is it liberating? Is it exploitation? Is it really that deep?
So I do think it is really that deep. I really do. I think, as I said before, it's nuanced. There's grey areas. It's not black and white. And I think the more I kind of look at it from this side of like, you know, is it exploitation or is it liberation? I think I'm being pulled from both sides because I see the women and I see them getting the money and I see them doing really well for themselves and I'm really happy about that. And it is a way of kind of taking people, you know, off the streets and making them safer. And there is a lot of positives to it. Don't get me wrong. But I don't know why I look past the woman and I always see a sneaky little man kind of pulling the strings in any form. And I know, you know, they're saying there's no middleman, but the guy who owns OnlyFans is a man and he is a multi-millionaire, you know, like he is earning such a large amount.
Do you want to know how
money.
much
and
he earned in dividends in 2024? $359 million in dividends.
This is what I'm talking about. Like, I see all these things we're saying about the positives and, you know, this and that. And there's something that irks me about it. There's something that makes my spine crawl a little bit. And I don't believe it's all on the women. But I think it's fueling misogyny online. It's fueling these vapid opinions that people have, and there is a divide online at the moment between men and women. You see it on posts. You see the kind of disparity. You see men not enjoying female-led things, women not enjoying male-led things. There is sectional things happening, and I just don't think that, you know, this influx of sexualization is making that divide any closer or any better, really. So yeah, that was a long-winded way of saying it is really that deep. But yeah, it is. It just really is. But yeah, what's your thoughts? What is it really that deep, Phoebe?
One word answer: yes, it is that deep. That being said, again, shades of grey, nuance, and I'm really happy we did the first episode where we did go through the positives of this platform, how sex work has changed, the fact that it can be liberating, the fact that some have found liberation in it. That being said, there's a darker side to that. There is that seedier underbelly, and I think I do worry about, you know, younger, more impressionable minds seeing this content, you know, thinking they can make bag through this sex work. But then again, you know, like, I'm 29, I don't have a lot of contact with teenagers. Whether they're thinking or feeling these things, I don't know. But I think that would be my overarching concern. I think it's brought about some good, but I think it's also brought about some not so good things. And I just don't like the publicity twist that a lot of the creators talk about. As I know we've mentioned Bonnie Blue a million times in this episode, but she would not be where she is without spouting the bullshit she's spouting. It just wouldn't happen, because she wouldn't make headlines. That cycle doesn't work without her feeding the beast. So that, look, it's not a clean-cut answer. I'm sorry, it is that deep, but multiple different facets of it for different reasons.
And I think sitting here and talking about this, I would be really interested in speaking to somebody from this industry.
100%.
Because I think it would be such, you know, a great conversation, you know, we can sit here and say, you know, the positives are this, the negatives are that, but like we're not in it. We don't understand it from the point of view of the creator. So if anybody's listening who knows somebody or is a creator themselves and, you know, has opinions and has something that they want to share and their story, like we would be more than happy to chat to you and get you on the podcast, because I think, you know, we want to hear people's opinions, and I think that's what this podcast is about. It's about bringing those opinions out on the table and looking at them all and thinking about them and not making a decision either, because I think that's a lot of people go down that path of thinking that they have to make a decision about what they think of OnlyFans and what they think of sex workers and this, that and the other, and it can be very like
binary,
constricting, and binary, exactly. But yeah, please get in touch.
Absolutely, we'd love to hear from someone inside the industry. So if you know someone, or if that's you, please get in touch. And now it's time for...
And what a pile of bollocks!
Now's the time of the show where we talk about something insignificant that just riles us up, fucks us off, makes us mad. Lucy, Belle, it is your turn. What do you got for me today?
Can I just say, I've been going to the gym since I was 18 years old. On and off. I mean, quite consistently for the past 5-6 years. What really, really pisses me off is I feel like I'm pretty strong. I can lift pretty well. I've got good form, you know. It's
You're
when
jacked,
I look
mate.
over and there is a 15-year-old prepubescent boy lifting heavier than me with fucking spaghetti arms. I swear to God, it brings about a boiling rage like no other. I'm just stood there like, what is the fucking point? What is the fucking point? And then, you know, the other day there was like a 13-year-old boy, because I go to this kind of health club and they have like lots of youth tennis club members, and they all come into the gym. And yeah, just casually doing the tricep and on the same weight as me. I'm like, I'm almost 29 years old. I've been going to the gym for more than 10 years. What the fuck is this about? Yeah, really, it's not their fault. It's not their fault. Can't blame them. Like, it's not, what can they do? That's just the way it is. The way it is, isn't it? But I can be bitter about it. About it.
Be bitter. I was wondering where you were going, because you've had a couple of gym-based ones before, and I was like, where's she going?
Yeah.
She had to repeat one? Like,
I like
where's she
to
going
rile
with
up
this?
the gym community.
Wasn't what I was expecting. Those poor
Sorry.
teenage boys. But I do wonder if they're like lifting. I mean, look, I'm not really a gym goer. I don't. Like, is there a thing about, are they lifting correctly? Is that a thing?
They're just lifting heavier. They
Okay,
can just
fine.
pick up heavier than I can pick up.
I'm trying to back you here, and you're like, Phoebe,
Yeah, no, there's no other way to say it. They can just shoulder press more than I can, and it's really fucking annoying. And it's just female genetics. Fuck off.
But
Okay,
you're strong. You are a strong gal.
Thank you. I like to think that if we went hand-to-hand combat with a 13-year-old, I could win. Like, I do hope and believe that in my soul that could happen. But when I am in the gym and I do see someone who is, you know, pushing 14, bench pressing more than me, I do question my reality.
Thanks so much for listening to Shallow. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd love it if you could leave us a review. It makes a really huge difference in helping others discover the podcast. We always want to hear from you, so feel free to slide into our DMs, send us a bell, or follow us on Instagram at ShallowPod. Shallow is a boxed off production, written and hosted by Lucy Bell and Phoebe Whittle. We'll see you next time.